Hi, I haven't introduced myself in a while. I'm Laura. I work full-time and adventure in my spare time. Most of my wanderings occur in my home state of Oklahoma. I'm into history, haunted places, cemeteries, food, pretty much anything fun and quirky. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, please subscribe to my channel to follow along on my adventures. I would greatly appreciate it. Now let's go. I find lots of things by accident when I'm looking for something else. That's how I stumbled upon the Gower Memorial Cemetery recently in Edmond, Oklahoma. I thought I'd pop in, snap a couple of pictures, and that would be that, but I was fascinated with the historical significance and ended up walking around for about an hour or so. Stay tuned until the end of this video for a little bonus content. Gower Memorial Cemetery, National Register of Historic Places, December 17, 1991. Founders John and Ophelia Gower donated Gower Cemetery from homestead land November 1889. November 20th, 1896, earliest burial. Excuse me. Gower Cemetery. September 19, 1889, founders registered for homestead. April 12, 1895, certification of homestead. 1921, Gower Cemetery deeded an elder son, Willie T. Gower Sr. Senior, excuse me. 1930, indecent plot developed a burial for all peoples. 1980, tax-free perpetual trust fund, Citizens Bank of Edmond. 1986 to 1994, beginning cemetery restoration, benamed Gower Memorial Cemetery. Trustees and owners, founders, granddaughters, Ethel R. Gower Spencer and David and Myrtle L. Gower Thomas. The Gower Cemetery was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1991. I'll read from the NRHP application so this will be as accurate as possible. After the Civil War and prior to the opening of the unassigned lands in April of 1889, African Americans in the United States searched for areas to settle. Directly after the war, many of the freedmen simply wandered from place to place, exploring their newfound freedom. While Congress recognized the problems of integration or relocation of African Americans, racial discrimination continued. Many African Americans began to go west, and between 1870 and the 1900s, Black leaders and immigrant agents supported this action. Many felt that the West would offer opportunities that would not be available in the South or the Northeast, mainly the acquisition of land. Kansas politician W. L. Eagleson was one of the many immigrant agents who urged African Americans to come to the newly opened Oklahoma District in 1889. The Gower Cemetery is significant for its association with the African American settlers who moved into the rural area northeast of Edmond and west of Arcadia in North Oklahoma County during and shortly after the run of 1889. The cemetery was one of the three properties associated with the Black homesteaders, which lived in a 4 to 6 mile area around Covell Road and Post Road. A church and a school, no longer existent, were also built and used by the African American homesteaders. Not all African Americans staked claims for homesteading or settled in the newly found cities, but rather they chose to segregate themselves by establishing a number of Black towns, including Langston, established in 1891, Bowley, established in 1903, and approximately 25 other small communities scattered throughout the state. These towns were settled to make it possible for the African Americans to have control of their lives and live within an atmosphere free of prejudice. The Gower Cemetery is significant as the last remaining physical evidence of one of the rural areas in Oklahoma settled primarily by African Americans and one of the few sites in Oklahoma associated with the rural settlement of African Americans prior to statehood. The school, the church, and the farmhouses and buildings associated with this small community are no longer existent. As the rising sun is clear to all, so fills all God's work. Zechariah 42:16-17. 1889 to 1994. This monument is erected in honor of the cemetery founders, John and Ophelia Gower and descendants, a symbol of African American heritage. And all the Gowers are buried right there. It says Arcadia Household of Ruth, 1357.
The Household of Ruth is an auxiliary body of the Grand United Order of Oddfellows in America, open to both Oddfellows and related women. The Grand United Order of Oddfellows in America is the historically African American organization that was formed in 1843 by Peter Ogden. The Household of Ruth degree was founded by Patrick H. Reason in 1858. There are 3 degrees based on the story of Ruth in the Bible. Juvenile branches are formed under local Household of Ruth bodies. The members of Household of Ruth are called inmates, and the household provides sick and funeral benefits to its members. Symbolism of the order included gold sheath of wheat, gold stars, and a pink rosette with a gold star in the center.
This one doesn't have the markers missing. Doesn't look like that old of a grave. Thank you for your service, sir.
The Gower Cemetery was established by John and Ophelia Gower by November 1889 for the burial of area residents. The earliest recorded burial is Elizabeth Miller, wife of Henry Miller, on November 20, 1896. Over the next 50 years, many of the early homesteaders and family members were buried in the Gower Cemetery. The 1900 census shows that John Gower was born in Tennessee and his wife Ophelia was born in Louisiana. They migrated to Kansas where the first 3 of their children were born. A son, the elder Willie T. Gower Sr., was born in Kansas in January 1883. John Gower was a stonecutter and donated the land for the Gower Cemetery. Ophelia was a midwife for families in the area. John and Ophelia are both buried in Gower Cemetery. John Gower was one of the original African American homesteaders in Oklahoma County. In the early 1930s, Willie T. Gower, the founder's elder son, developed an indigenous plot of the cemetery burial ground. The homeless, paupers, and those from the streets were buried in multiple graves in this section of the cemetery. Frank, Lavinia, and John are buried in Gower Cemetery. The Gilroy family were early African American residents of Arcadia. Frank Harry Gilroy was born in St. Martinville, Louisiana. Frank married Lavinia Harrison, daughter of Anderson Harrison. Frank died December 8, 1967, and is buried in Gower Cemetery. Lavinia is also buried there. Frank worked on the railroad when he came to Arcadia. H.B. Miller was an original African American homesteader. He also served in the 17th U.S. Colored Infantry Company E. Simon, Margaret, and Arlie Allensworth are buried in Gower Cemetery. Simon Allensworth had staked a homestead claim by June 1890. In my last video, I spoke about the Steen family, the first pioneer family of Edmond. The Cordelia Steen chapter of the DAR worked with the Gower descendants to gather and document the history of the people buried in Gower Cemetery. I will put a link to their website in the description box if you would like to check out their ancestral research and to learn more about those buried here. If you stuck around this long, now it's time for some bonus content. I don't mention a whole lot on my channel, maybe I should discuss it more, but one of my hobbies is paranormal investigating. When I go to a cemetery out of respect, I'm not trying to communicate with those who have passed on. However, that does not stop them from trying to communicate with me. Listen to this short clip and let me know if you can hear it. Focus on the end part of the clip. I will play it twice. Let me know if you can hear it and what you think it says. I think it says get out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, bye for now.